Hi everyone, my name's Ercy and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to do the philosophy of reading tag. So if that's something you want to see, then stick around. So this tag was created by Brandon over at Brandon's Bookshelf, and he has an amazing channel, and I need you guys to go check him out for sure. The type of books that he reads are like philosophy, nature, history, science, poetry, very thought-provoking books. The way that he's able to articulate his thoughts is really great. Like, I want you guys to just go check him out because his channel is so great. He is a newer channel on the platform, and he is quickly gaining in popularity because of how amazing his channel is. So I really want you guys to go check him out if you haven't already, because his channel is really superb. So he created this tag in order to kind of get to know how reading affects us, some of the things that we prefer as booktubers or as readers, and really see how we engage with the reading process. I'm going to stop rambling and just get on into the tag. So the first question to this tag is, what's most important? A good character, plot, or message? And I personally think that while all three are necessary, my answer is going to be the message. I can take unlikable characters. I can take slow-paced books where there's not a lot of movement. But I think that regardless, you need a message in order to drive the story. One book that I'm thinking about in particular would be like The Drawing of the Three by Stephen King. A book full of unlikable characters, barely any movement. But I think the message of like these people overcoming their circumstances in order to overcome the things in their past that are probably holding them back or chaining them down to the negativity in their lives. I feel like that was sort of the message with that book. Had we just seen Roland pulling people out of their environments and then they're still kind of stuck in their ways, it wouldn't have had much of an impact had we not seen that transformation within the characters. And I think that's sort of what's driving the narratives in his stories for the Dark Tower series, or even like with adventure stories or fantasy books. I think that we kind of forget that even though our characters are on a quest or on a journey, there's still purpose driving their actions. There's still meaning behind the things that they need to do and accomplish. So I think that the message is really what's going to drive a lot of these books. And without it, they kind of just fall flat. All right, and question number 2, here we go. Should one read books about ideas or opinions they disagree with? For sure, but to a point. I definitely don't think that we should stay in our bubbles because then we're kind of closed off to everything in the world. We definitely should be reading other things, but I want those other things to have some kind of purpose or some kind of logic that will have it make sense for me. I used to teach high school social studies back when I lived in North Carolina. And one of the things that I used to always tell my students was, it's okay to disagree with some of the things that we see or, do or whatever, right? Like, it's perfectly okay to disagree so long as you have evidence to back up your opinions. Anytime that I see some obvious, like, misinformation, conspiracy theories is another one, I kind of just tune it out because I give it enough energy to find out what the purpose is and to find out what it's about. But once it starts to just not make any sense, I'm like, I'm done. Like, flat earth, no. Like, QAnon, garbage. 9/11 conspiracy theories, I'm not with it. Like, you can go somewhere. I kind of have that same mentality when it comes to the things that I read. It needs to be based on something, something real and tangible that makes sense and is logical and is fair. And if it's not, then I'm not with it. Okay, question number 3. As tech advances, what do you think will be the role of books? So I think that books will always have a role in our lives. I just think the medium of the book is going to change and it's going to be out of our control. Books are made out of paper. Paper comes from trees. And if you want some books, trees got to get cut down. I'm not trying to shame anybody into buying books because obviously I love buying books. I feel like inevitably we're going to have to all switch into ebooks because there's just no way we can just keep making more physical books. All right, question number 4. How important are summaries, review, and art in your book choosing? Now, I am such a sucker for a good cover, but I will only buy the book with the good cover if the synopsis makes sense to me, or if I'm really interested in what the synopsis has to say. So I'll give you some examples of some covers that I think are absolutely gorgeous. Definitely the Song of Achilles. Like, I love this edition of the book, but this is the UK edition, and I just thought that this cover was absolutely gorgeous. Like, I'm definitely intrigued enough about the book that I want to read it. I loved Ercy by Madeline Miller, and I really wanted to get into this one as well. And I thought that this cover, this edition of it, was so pretty that I wound up just getting this one. Another cover that I think is really pretty or really beautiful would be A Promised Land by former President Barack Obama. I love portraits in black and white or grayscale, and I just thought that he just looks so handsome here. So I wanted to get this book. I mean, obviously I want to read the book too. I'm very interested in what he has to say about his presidency or in his time in the Oval Office. But even just the cover itself is just absolutely beautiful. I love this. Last one before I move on, because I know this is going to be a long video. This edition of Dune by Frank Herbert, I think is absolutely gorgeous. Like, this is just so pretty. Like, I'm interested in the book, but dang, this cover is so good. Okay, I'm gonna stop. But when it comes to reviews, I do take into account reviews, but I also have it in the back of my mind that everyone is different and everyone's entitled to their own opinions. So while I do take reviews into account, I don't give it that much weight as I would reading the synopsis and forming my own opinion about a book, and then deciding if I want it or not. Okay, question number 5. Should one ever skim or scan a book? So my mind is telling me no. But in my heart of hearts, I know I did this in college. Definitely just because my course load was ridiculous in college. I was, for my undergrad, definitely like full-time student. For the majority of my master's, I was living abroad. Now that I'm purchasing the books myself and, you know, I'm spending my money on it, I definitely do just read them from front to back. I even read the foreword, the afterwards, the introductions. Like, I read all of it. The glossaries. Like, if the book has a glossary, like, I'm reading it. Just because I feel like if the author took the time to put that in a book, then it's necessary. But I definitely did that in college. I'm not gonna lie. Question number 6. Should reading always be enjoyable? I guess it depends on what you deem enjoyable. My answer is that it's kind of complex. I love reading books for pleasure, but a lot of the books that I tend to read sometimes can be pretty dark, and so it will still put me in like a sour and bad mood, because I feel like you should still go through those emotions, be it positive, negative, whatever it is that the author is invoking within the book. I tend to kind of put that on me as I'm reading those stories. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying if I'm not making any sense. So I was reading My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. And this is a very dark story. This is about a girl who was being sexually abused by her teacher and groomed to be in a relationship, or what she thought of was a relationship, with that teacher. And then now that she's older, she's kind of looking back at how that manipulative relationship, I keep just putting quotation marks relationship because it's not a relationship, how that affected her as an adult, being that that teacher now is being convicted of doing the same things to another young student of his. This book definitely affected me as, of course, as an educator, as the mother of a little girl. I feel like this book really affected me, and I remember like my husband being like a little worried for me. He was just like, "Are you okay?" Because my mood was definitely like down as I'm reading the book. But I went through it. I read it. After I finished it, I had like a day or two of like a break, picked up something lighthearted afterwards, and you just kind of keep it pushing. It was enjoyable to read it, but not an enjoyable read, if that, it's so hard to make sense of. It's just a dark book. I guess another example would be like books about race. My husband definitely knows when I'm reading something about race because again, my mood is like I'm so like down. Anytime I read anything about race, I get really affected by it. There are people in my family that do get discriminated against. I see it and I hear about it, and so I get really affected by it. But I think it's still very important to read those things because you should still be educated on the topic. That way you are aware and you can point those things out and see it. I still enjoy the reading process that is involved with reading those kind of subjects. All right, moving on. Number 7, is it important to be well read? I think it depends on one's definition of what it is to be well read. Like, I feel like I'm well read, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary or important, and it doesn't make me a better person, but or it doesn't make me better than anybody else just because I've read a certain amount of books. But I like the fact that I read a lot. It makes me happy to read the amount that I read, but I don't try to push it on other people and try to make them do what they don't want to do just to necessarily be well read. You want to read for your enjoyment or for your own knowledge and growth. If one book does that for you, great. If 100 books does that for you, awesome. Good for you, you know? But I know I read a lot, but you know, everyone's different. All right, question number 8. What is your book buying process? A hot mess is what it is. No, but like for real, so I subscribe to Book of the Month, but I don't buy in every month. There are certain months that I'll skip over. I just have to be interested in the book in order to decide that I want it in my collection. Definitely before I was picking up a lot of classics because I felt then it was so important to have all these classics or these necessary books in my collection, or what people thought of as necessary. And as I'm getting more into fiction and fantasy and all these things, like I feel like I'm slowly acquiring a lot of fantasy and fun books. So it just depends on my mood, really. Like, I'll see this in the bookstore and I'm like, that's gorgeous, I want it, right? And so then I'll get it. So I really like books that have beautiful covers. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's a definite bonus. If I go to the bookstore and I see something interesting, I'll try to take into account how many books I have that's unread in my own at home. And when it comes to books in a series, I'll only buy like one book at a time in case I'm not feeling the series anymore. My one exception to that was The Dark Tower, only because I saw like all the books at a library sale. So I got all of those. But usually I'll wait until I've read the book and then I'll go and get the next one. So I won't buy like a whole series at once. I'll just do one book at a time and then go on from there. I feel like a lot goes into it, and that's why I feel like this year my collection has just exploded. We're gonna try to show some restraint going forward. We're gonna try. All right, question number 9. What is your reading process? So I read audiobooks when I'm out walking with the Bruce, my dog. So I'll put on an audiobook anytime I'm out with him. But when it comes to like my physical books, I just have to wait till my daughter goes to sleep. So it'll be either early in the morning or at night after she's in bed, and then I'll just curl up like on the couch, in my bed, wherever, and just read that way. I can do audiobooks if I'm by myself in a car, but if other people are in the car with me, it's definitely like music all the way. But yeah, maybe that's probably why I'm not getting as much reading done as some other people, but it's okay. I'm okay with it because I love music too. Question number 10. How do you use what you read? My channel? No, in all seriousness, I definitely started my channel in order to engage with people about the books that I read. So this is definitely one of the outlets that I use for my books. Obviously, aside from my own personal use of just reading them and consuming them myself, but I like to share them on my channel, and that's why I'm here. But I definitely use them as like topics of conversation. I'll bring up books when I'm with my friends. I'm definitely that person that will bring up like movie quotes, TV quotes, book stuff from books. Like I'm that person. But I also, when I was teaching, I would use excerpts from different books into my lessons, because I definitely believe that in order to teach history, you should incorporate things from culture and literature, among other things, or it definitely plays a big part in telling our history. Question 12. What are your views on rereading a book? I definitely like to reread books, but I give it time in between my rereads. I need some space, I need some distance, and that way when I do pick it up again, I can pick up on all the little things or rediscover things in the books that I probably kind of overlooked before. I definitely feel like it's really fun to reread a book, so I'm all for it. And then number 13, what makes a book good? And I think it kind of ties back to the previous question. Like, if I want to reread it, if I want to talk about it, if I want to share it, I think a book is good. All right, question number 14. Here goes Brandon causing drama. What makes a book bad? So I think it takes a lot for me to think a book is bad. It really takes a lot, because I understand that some books are not for me. Maybe true crime isn't really my thing, but I'm not going to say a book is bad because it's true crime. I'm just not into it. It's not my flavor. But I think what makes a book bad is just like if you're reading it and you're annoyed, repulsed, just constantly thinking this is dumb, this is stupid, what's the point? And especially in a genre that you like everything, like certain things on paper, like you should like about the book, and then as you're going through it, you're like, this is stupid. I don't like it. I think that's when you know a book is bad. So I'll give you an example. So The Mister by E.L. James, I think that book is bad. I'm sorry if you think it is not. And if you like it, I'm happy for you. I'm really glad that you liked it. But I think, in my personal opinion, that book is bad. So the reason why I think that book is bad is because the main character, he was just so obnoxious, annoying, dumb. He would like lose his mind anytime the female protagonist, his love interest, would walk into a room, and it was just like, it was just so annoying and bad. And like, I picked up this book on a whim. Like, I was doing a puzzle and I just wanted a book, and my library had it like immediately available. Warning sign number 1. And so I picked it up because I was like, a lot of people were hyping up the series, or at least that book. And no, it was just so bad. I did not like that book. Question 15. How do you feel about not finishing a book? So it takes a lot for me to not finish a book. It has to be something like I'm definitely not feeling, I'm not being entertained, I'm not enjoying the process of reading this book. Question number 16. Should the author's personal life matter at all? So yes and no. I feel like you should still be able to approach any book that you want. I don't believe in boycotting books. I don't believe in censoring books. I don't believe in burning books, because if you believe in it with one way, it can go the other way as well. Society changes and evolves over time, and our opinions about what is acceptable socially and culturally also changes over time. So for us to penalize and punish people because of the way that they thought in a certain time period, I feel like that doesn't really make any sense to me, because maybe 50 years in the future, we're going to be looking back at some of the things that we were reading and think that that wasn't appropriate, that wasn't right, that wasn't, for things that we probably don't even think about, that is probably going to be unacceptable in the future, or socially unacceptable in the future. So I definitely feel like you should still be able to read any book, but you can still hold the authors accountable. You can still talk about those issues without it feeling like you're under attack for reading or approaching a certain book. Like, you can still enjoy a book and what it is, while still also having that conversation about the issues surrounding the personal life of the author. I think it's just a matter of having that discussion and not being afraid to do it, that I think is important. Question number 17. If you could only read one genre for the rest of time, what would it be? So this is hard. It would definitely be a toss-up between historical fiction and fantasy. In my heart of hearts, I know I'd probably lean more towards historical fiction, but I still love fantasy books too, so it's really hard. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid off, historical fiction. But Yeah, that's a hard one. I read all genres, most genres. I read most genres, so it's really hard to just pick one. But I think the majority of the stuff that I've read is historical fiction, so that's what I'm gonna go with. Question number 18: do you ever read a book without knowing anything about it? And my answer for this is no. I need at least a synopsis because I get lost trying to figure it out. Like, I get distracted by trying to figure out what the synopsis of the book is. So like, let's say I pick up the Song of Achilles without having read anything, having heard anything, and I'm starting to read it. I would just be trying to figure out what the synopsis is rather than enjoying the book. So I just need that to kind of settle my brain and then I can continue and enjoy a book. All right, and now the final question, number 20. Do you think everyone should read and why? And I think yes, but in the way that you like. I feel like reading is really important, and I feel like you can get so much out of reading. But I think that you need to find what works for you. So I like reading all over the place. That makes me happy. But I understand that other people, it's not the case for them. So I'll give you another great example. My husband, he knew my love for reading, but he just wasn't into it. He's more of like a TV and movie person, right? And that's totally cool. But then I kind of suggested to him, hey, why don't you just try like an audiobook? You know, since you don't like reading physical books, just try an audiobook. And when that man started listening to audiobooks, he could not stop. He found his niche, he found his interest, and he stuck with it, and that's just his thing. So he loves listening to fantasy audiobooks. So I think he started off with, I think, like the Aragon series, and then he moved on to like the Harry Potter series, then A Song of Ice and Fire series, and then he got into Dresden. He loves Dresden. I think that's like his favorite series. He's going through the Dark Tower series with me. And I think he just started the Stormlight Archives too. So he found his thing, and he would actually like re-listen to these audiobooks over and over again because, you know, he works with his hands a lot. So he has the opportunity to like listen to audiobooks while he's working. So he listens to so many more, like he reads so many books. It's crazy. Like he reads more than I do, and it's because he's listening to audiobooks. And I think that's amazing. That's wonderful that he found that. And I think that if you find what works for you, then I think you would enjoy the process of reading. So you just got to find what works, you know? So that is it. That is the tag, the philosophy of reading tag. Thank you, Brandon, for creating this tag. I've been having fun watching other people create this tag video as well. Should I tag some people? I'm going to tag some people. I originally wasn't going to tag anyone. I was just going to kind of just go with it, but I'm going to tag some people. I think the first person I'm going to tag is Mason from Mason in the Dark. I think his answers to this tag would be really interesting. So Mason, you are tagged. I'm also going to tag Lezlie from the Nerdy Narrative. I'm tagging you because the purpose of your channel is to get people into reading and the love of reading. So I want to know all about your love of reading through this tag. So that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my answers on this tag. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you all soon.